Name some things that you desire most in your life.
Mental stability.
I hear you. Mental stability. Approval. Success.
Emo girls.
I'm sorry.
Sure.
Okay.
Emo girl.
Our lost sanity.
Lost sanity, truth, sanity in general. Love it. What else? What are some other things you might just desire?
Money.
Money.
Oh, yeah. Cars.
Cars. Okay. Go on with the stuff side of things. Alright. Alright, so all great answers, guys. So that's a good one. Love. So that's in the direction. So the desire that most of us kind of universally have, I would hope we all agree, is happiness. We all want happiness in our lives. We all want to be happy, to have happy lives, and to be the best version of ourselves. Like, most people do not want and or desire to think, like, to do things wrong, to make their lives harder and be the worst version of themselves. Even when things are going wrong, or we have to make difficult choices, or we're having to suffer through something, most of the time we can kind of think through the benefit. Like, okay, so like some of you guys who like lift, right? Like the way you lift and stuff, like that hurts. It is a struggle. There's some pain in that. But you know, the more you lift, the more gains you get, right? So like that suffering, there's positive. Or if like you're at wanting something like a trip or whatever, and like your parents are having you do like extra chores or whatever, like you know that you're like gaining money towards this trip with like your friends or whatever reason. There's always a positive at the end. How many of you guys would agree with this statement? We experience desiring something more than we experience having our desires fulfilled. I definitely agree with that statement. I feel like I want stuff and desire things way more than I get them. We're constantly looking for the next big thing, right? The next thing that we want. Like, for example, because it's September and Apple does this to us every September, you have a phone and it's the best of phones, and then literally 6 months later they're like, look at this new phone and your phone is the worst, even though it's the same phone with slight differences, because maybe it comes in a different color now.
It's just the camera.
Or just the camera.
They have this thing with the
Right, it's got the thing. It's different. No, it's not different. It's the same thing. Your phone will be fine. But like, we feel like we have to have this phone. We have to have this thing to make our life be easier or better. An example that's even more on like a basic level. We get hungry. Like, think of the best meal that you have ever had. Like it is your favorite thing. Mine is like Thanksgiving stuffing is my favorite thing on the face of the planet. Like I could eat it every day. I don't. I only get it on Thanksgiving because I can contain myself, but I love it. And like I get so excited about it, and then I eat it, and I'm like, oh, you're uncomfortable full. Everyone's been uncomfortable full on Thanksgiving. But then literally like a couple hours later, or maybe even just the next day, you're gonna be hungry again. Like it's gonna happen. You're gonna be hungry. We all just ate pizza. That's not gonna sustain us forever. We're all gonna have to eat again. Like, it's a constant cycle of needing and desiring things.
Here's your bathroom.
And we will encounter various needs and desires and frustrations and disappointments throughout our lives. And we're going to constantly be chasing them down to fulfill them. Some of them are going to be easy, like when we're hungry, we just go get a sandwich. But then others are going to be difficult. And many of us kind of fall into this trap of, I want, or I have to have, because if I have this, then this will happen. And we spend our lives unfulfilled and kind of broken because we just never get what we want. And we just kind of keep wanting more and more and more. So this series that we're going to be starting is going to put a mirror up to our spiritual lives and to our desires, and we'll be able to look for a way in our lives that these realities kind of happen and how we live with them. And each of us, even the adults, will have to take a deeper look at our own desires and wants and see if they point us toward happiness. Spoiler, happiness is Christ. Or if they point us to an unfulfilled life that the world kind of keeps cycling us through. So obviously it's not that much of a spoiler that, you're at a youth group. We're going to talk about Jesus. And that true happiness comes from that authentic relationship with God. And to find a true connection to Christ through prayer. So if true happiness comes from being in a relationship with God, how do we build that relationship? Why do we have to build that relationship? Well, we're not accidents, guys. We're here for a reason. God took special care to create you and your soul and put you on the world right now in this time. Made sure, this is the person. You have to be here now. And you can never be here at any other time. We are hardwired to be ourselves. And there's no one that's going to be exactly like you ever again. There never was, never is, and never will be anyone that's like you. And we're hardwired to have this relationship with God because he's our creator and he wants us with him. In Genesis 1, we read, "Then God said, 'Let us make human beings in our own image after our likeness. We bear the mark of his creation.'" When we continue to read in the multiple chapters of Genesis, we learn how deep and profound the relationship that Adam and Eve had with God, with their creator. However, we all know this ends bad for them and for us. And just because we're hardwired to desire a relationship with God doesn't mean we have to have one with him. We have free will. And we have to choose to develop that relationship with him. Just like we have to choose to develop the relationship with literally every other person in our lives. Yes, you are given a sibling if you have one, and you can choose to ignore them and their existence, or you can like them and get to know them and be friends with them. I did that. He's back there somewhere. Or, the friends that you make, it's you obviously have cycles of friends that sometimes you're friends with them and then sometimes you're not, and then you're friends with them, sometimes you're not. It happens. But you choose to keep these relationships up or not. And I'm not going to harp on the fall because we've all heard about the fall probably 100 times, and it's probably not the last time you're going to hear about it in the next 4 years of your life. But we have heard that our first parents did this thing. They disobeyed. And we have to understand that this one act of disobedience is the catalyst for the world that we live in today. It informs our relationship with God today because we don't have that direct connection like they had. He's not walking in the garden with us. We're not in the garden. There's a barrier that's been put up. And there was a time before the fall where God was with us and God was walking in the garden and was very accessible. And then there was a time after. And we can't turn that clock back. We can't change that event. It's a fixed point. And now we have pain, we have suffering, we have shame, and all of those things entered into the world. And they all create kind of the sin that surrounds us, and we have these temptations that have entered into the world. And these are the things that have put wedges between us and God. And we're going to experience negative emotions, like hate or anger. We're going to act immorally. We're not all going to be perfect. And we're going to feel pain, and we're going to allow lies of the world to kind of consume us at times. We're fallen. It happens. I'm fallen. I fail a lot. Without salvation, we would be in a way worse place than we are now. However, we have Christ. Yeah. He came, and He saved us from a really horrible fate. He took upon himself the past, present, and future sins of humanity. He died on the cross to give us a chance at redemption. This is the fundamental truth that all Christians can agree upon. Between Protestant, Catholics, and all of the offshoots, we all agree on this one thing. In the Gospel of John, it reads, I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly. Christ blatantly says, follow me and you will have abundant life. How much simpler can that be? It's right there. He shows us unconditional love, and he asks in return that we just choose him, to love him back. Seems pretty easy. We'll have all of the, everything will be fulfilled. We'll have all of our wildest dreams. All the things will be great. We'll have this overflowing and abundance of grace and love and mercy. It's all ours for the taking. We just have to say, hey, Jesus, you, me, him, forever. Easy, right? Right? Yeah. Not so easy. It is easy to say yes to God. Because with the grace that he gives us, it allows us to not succumb to the temptations that we have in our lives. But it's not going to be easy to keep going. We're going to keep hearing lies. We're going to keep being fed garbage. And we're going to fail. We're going to sin. There's only been one person with no divine background that in the entirety of human existence that didn't fall into sin. I did some research and the estimated number of humans to this point is 117 billion people from the start of human existence to now. And one of them was perfect. Only one. So all of the saints, all of the apostles, all of the priests, deacons, youth ministers, core team members, popes, all your teachers, parents, all of the people from all of them sinners. Everyone is a sinner. And if they tell you they're not, they're lying. So they're a sinner. Because there's only been one. She's in heaven. She's hanging out with her son. This series is going to shed light on the person of Christ and how we need him and how he's seeking us out. He desires a relationship with us. It's up to each and every one of us to allow him to fulfill our lives.